From whence cometh my help? My help cometh from the Lord which made heaven and earth. He said he will not suffer thy foot to be moved. The Lord which keepeth thee, he will not slumber nor sleep. For the Lord is my keeper, the Lord, he is my shade. Upon thy right hand, upon thy right hand, no, the sun shall not smite thee by day, nor the moon by night. He shall preserve my soul, even forevermore.
Special men, I should say, of the day. Alex Ihama, he is the CEO of the International School of Greatness, and he is a gentleman behind the idea of the Summit of Excellence. He has pulled these great individuals together to be a part of the summit, and I can tell you they have been working hard to prepare content that will inspire you and transform your lives. So at this time I want to introduce Alex Ihama.
Today, just for the next few moments, I'm going to call up some fine people up here to sit on that. I tested it last night. That's really a nice one. And maybe I should take that home with me when I'm going. They look very nice. So I'm going to call them here and we're just going to have a discuss. But let me manage your expectation. You are going to decide what you leave here with. You are going to decide if you're going to remain the same. You are going to decide if you are part of the movement. You are going to decide. The decision is in your hand. We have put together a fine group. I don't have my slide, but we put together a fine group of speakers, people who are deep spiritually, deep academically, deep in business, deep people who have gone to the bottom of the ocean and they've come up with pearls. We have speakers from California, Mr. Innovation, I call him, right? Terry, by the way, I don't know if that was mentioned. She's not here now, the singer. She came in from New York last night, right? Just for this, she came in. Yes, absolutely, absolutely. You know, fine speaker. I was in New York in March for a 4-day program. I connected with her. I'm like, you need, when I get my private jet, you will be on that plane. And anywhere I go, they'll make sure you sing before I speak. So fantastic. Let's give it up for Terry again. Use those hands now, everybody. Scream if you have to. That's right. Some people are not smiling. Why are you not smiling? You look beautiful if you're smiling. Yes, you. Yeah, that's right. Yes, don't look away. Smile. It's good. All right. Okay. So, without further ado, let me start calling up the panel. The first person I'm going to call, please, let's give it up again for him, our dear minister here, Minister of God and Minister of Politics. He's been able to mix politics with spirituality, church and state. Come on, please, applaud him as he goes up to say, come on. Absolutely. Yes, please, sir. Just have a seat. The next person I'm going to call up is Kevin. I'll introduce him later on, properly later on, but Kevin, you'll see his bio on the book. But Kevin Jr. is a retired deputy superintendent in the Ministry of Corrections in Canada. He flew in last week from Canada just for this conference. Right? Come on, yes, put those hands again. Yes, just for this summit. right? So he has almost 40 years. He's gone through so many ministries in the government. Am I talking to somebody? If I am, say yes, you are. Am I talking to somebody? If I am, say yes, you are. All right, let's have some order in the house. So over 40 years experience in different ministries in the government, deeply spiritual, deeply spiritual, and he has his own businesses he manages. So please, once again, give it up for Kevin. Come on, somebody. Come on, somebody. And Marlene Street Forest was supposed to be here. Is that? No.
I'm not her.
Okay. Oh, yes, you. Okay. Yes. Okay. Yeah. Yes, you're sitting for her. Okay. She sent me a text. She actually called me and then sent me a text about you. So, Marlene Street Forest is the managing director of the Jamaican Stock Exchange, and they are the title sponsor. That means they said whatever anybody is giving towards this event, we want to double that, and that's really what it means to be a title sponsor. And they have stepped up. But Marlene called me this morning. She wasn't feeling very well. She said she's sending Andrea Kelly. Andrea Kelly is the managing director for the Jamaican Central Security System. Yes, pardon me on that one. So you will, I know you say, give a little message after this, but please, I'm going to invite you also to join, and I am going to moderate. I'm going to moderate to make sure most of you don't fall asleep on me. Yes. Are you happy to be here? Yes. My one man's voice is louder than 100 people's voice. How do you do that? You want to transform a nation, the first thing you have is your voice. That's the first thing. If you don't speak up, I told you about life. If you don't speak up, it'll match you down. That people will cut you on the highway because nobody is waiting for nobody this day. So are you happy to be here? Yes. Are you happy to be here? Yes. Right? We talk about national transformation. Is a topic you don't read in newspapers. You don't see it anywhere. They don't talk about it in church, in school. Nobody talks about it, but it's really what everybody desires. They want their nation to move forward. Thank you so much. They want their nation to move forward. They want their nation to advance. And guys, if you have any question, please, this is your time. I say this all the time. The wisdom you seek is in the question you don't ask. Which means, if you want the wisdom, what do? Ask the question, right? I often do events, I leave, they start sending me a message on Facebook, I mentors. I said, find me for my next event and meet me up there, right? Because you had the opportunity to ask it here. So, when we talk about national transformation, what does that mean to you? Oh, yeah.
National transformation means a structural change. It involves everyone being a part of the change. There's a purpose that we are striving to achieve. It's moving from one level to the next level, being the better you, the best we can be as a national group.
Good. Please applaud her for me. Come and put those hands. Please, guys, be generous with those hands.
National transformation, it's not change, because change is an event. But transformation is when you look at having change and then internalizing the change. So when you internalize that change, now it becomes a part of you. So whatever you're doing, you make sure that the new established goal is achieved at all times. It doesn't matter where you are, it doesn't matter who is with you, you have internalized that so it becomes you. And if I can go back to the Bible, when individuals became believer, they applied that belief to everything that they did. So in transformation, we need to make sure that everything that we're doing supports where we want to go, and it supports our purpose.
Please, put those hands together. Be generous.
Politicians and preachers don't need microphones, you know. Jamaica is a wonderful society, but it's also very unequal and in many respects an oppressive society. National transformation is going to have to first realize that our present structures of political economy and social classification cannot provide the equal opportunity and the inclusive sustainability that we yearn after or should yearn after. And that transformation is going to require to happen at two levels. It's going to involve a personal conversion of each one of us towards a different sense of values and attitudes, maybe things that we have already learned, but have submerged in our selfishness and in our follow-fashionness. And that's going to have to require also transformation at the national level, which is going to involve a change of the structures and the presumptions of governance. It is truly a revolutionary process. It's going to require transformed leadership, and I believe that's why we're here today.
Wow, wow. Okay, please applaud. Come on, put those hands together. So it's interesting the way the three of you phrased it, and I picked a couple of things from what you said, and I hope you guys also did that as well. But the minister said that there are two parts to it, right? That's the personal aspect to it. Now, I'm going to speak for most people here. They're like, okay, you know, I'm here. I want to learn leadership. I want to be good in my business. I just want to be me, and then so I can get to the next level. How do you, or what should you think? How do you connect your current occupation, your career, your calling, your purpose, your profession, and you mentioned purpose there, Kevin. How do you connect that to transformation, to the national transformation? People say, it's just me. Jamaica is 2.9 million people. What difference do I make? That's the natural tendency. Any of you can take that question and go with it.
I'll start with a conversation we had this morning with regards to voting. Everyone has a vote. When the election is called, as a citizen of the country, you have a voice. And if you want to transform things, you can't sit back and say, I'm going to wait for somebody else to do it. It is your right to be able to go out and say, I've been given a voice. I've been given a vote, so I'm going to do it. And I try to bring things back to Bible as much as possible. Paul and Silas was thrown in jail. And when they were thrown in jail, they were being taken out and they said, okay, go out through the back door. But Paul said, I'm a citizen. I have a voice. So because I have a voice, I'm not going to go through anybody's back door. All right? You're going to take me out through the front door the same way that you brought me in here. And all the people that saw when you beat me, I want them to see you taking me out. And by the way, because you didn't treat me right, I want an apology.
Come on.
All right? So when we're talking about transformation, we now have to realize what is our purpose. When we realize what is our purpose, then we realize that we have a voice, we have authority. I speak about the king and the kingmaker. The kingmaker is more powerful than the king, because the kingmaker gives the king the authority to rule. So we as individuals, with that one vote, with that one voice, we get up before that politician, we get up before that party and said, I like what you're saying, I'm going to give you my vote. I don't like what you're saying, so I'm not going to give you my vote. We have a voice, we have purpose, we have authority, we have to use it.
Wow, come on, put those hands together. And please, sorry, before you make that comment, if you have any question, Nicole or Ricardo, please, let's ensure that we get that question right to the front. That's just wave them if they have questions, they let you know, and we ensure we bring that to the front here. Please, Minister, go ahead.
You know, I think Jamaica and Jamaicans are in a very privileged position to be agents of transformation at all levels. We are, nobody's really counted, by the way, but say we're 3 million people. We traditionally, historically, currently, pack a punch way beyond our size. Jamaicans do not suffer from the enemy of living in mass societies where your voice is very hard to project and very often is lost. Neither do we suffer from the claustrophobia of very small societies, small islands perhaps, where you're seeing the same people and saying the same things time after time. Whatever we do as individuals, as societies, as groups, as companies, is writ large for good or for ill. We have many blessings. We are an extremely free society. You can talk your talk here without any restriction, without much fear. That gives us tremendous, God-given, grace-filled opportunities to make an impact among ourselves, first of all, yes, and also on the world stage. Take courage, exercise leadership.
Wow, wow. Come on, put those hands together. Put those hands together.
I think it is important for us to all to realize that each and every one of us have a part to play. Whatever we do in our space ultimately affect the transformation of our nation. For too long, we believe what we do is all about us, and it does not transfer to the society, and that is not so. We are accountable to everyone. Our actions are being seen and understood and may be interpreted by someone else and may transform the person to be the person that you could have assisted a person to be a better person, but by setting the wrong example, you actually lead to the wrong results.
Absolutely. Put your hands together, put your hands together. Just while you have the mic, I have a question that is actually tailored to each of you specifically. So you are representing the Jamaican Stock Exchange. The Jamaican Stock Exchange in some way, shape or form represents the corporate world, right? They have the stock in your organization. So what role, and there are businesses here today, I see them, GPS is here, First Credit Union, most of them are here. So what is the role, what do you see as the role for corporations to play? Because for far too long, like you said, like we all said, they have abstained. And they don't even, their voice, in fact, they vote in secret, right? So they don't want to know. So the corporations have just abstained and said, let the politicians do it, let the government folks do it. And yet, what the government folks do affect the stock price, I'm believing, even here in Jamaica. So what is that role the corporations must play, must begin to play to influence national transformation? And while you're on that thought, Kevin, you're going to answer the same question with regards to the government, right? And the minister will answer for the church, right? The church is another group that for far too long, they have abstained. And they say, oh, church and state should mix. Well, I had a very brief conversation with him today. I thought that was quite interesting on that philosophy. So please speak on behalf of the corporation. Kevin will speak on behalf of government, and then the minister will speak on behalf of the church.
As a corporation, I think the first thing that we should have our mantra is integrity and honesty. In all our daily doing and operations, whatever it is that governs the organization, we should first think about integrity and the honesty of our daily operations. We also should be a voice for the persons who cannot be heard, or as a corporation, we have the opportunity to speak on behalf of those persons who will not be heard or cannot be influenced as strongly as we would. We also understand and know what is happening more than the ordinary man. And we should play a part in ensuring that whatever it is that is being said, it is stand for national integrity, and that is for the benefit of everyone, and not just for a company, an individual, or a party.
Government is an interesting entity. Government is established to support the community, the region, the nation. And I believe that the responsibility of the government is to establish priorities that will support their constituency. After identifying these priorities, they should ensure that everyone is in agreement with those priorities. And once we have confirmed that the priorities are right, then allocate the resources to move the yardstick forward. It's also very important for the government to realize that they're not the be-all and end-all. So in that, in transformation from a government perspective is to allocate the appropriate resources to their appropriate places. And after you've identified your priorities from a government, I think one of the unwritten priorities is the family. because transformation occurs in the home. So let's think back to a conversation between a parent and their child when a child is at a certain age. The parent will ask, what do you want to be when you grow up? And that will spark a discussion as to what education process they're going to go through and what that to receive the proper accreditation to be that professional. But the question that we don't ask is, what is your purpose? Right? Can you imagine if we were to have a conversation with our children around their purpose? Can you imagine if the government were to allocate effective resources that will allow for families to be able to achieve purpose of the family? That in itself would create the transformation that I think we all desire. So government, in most cases, they're not here to do the job. A number of years ago, the government of Ontario said, we are steering and not rowing. So what they're saying is, we're going to put the policies in place, we're going to put the resources in place, and allow you to do what is required so that we can achieve the joint goal that we've established so that we can get to where we're going to go. So when we expect that the government is going to come down and give us food, I think we're misled. So let's look at government as they are supposed to be. They're the individual at a very high level that is going to identify the priorities, national and international. And sometimes we don't think about the international impact. You think of, well, what's going on here at home, and this is what I need. Government looked at home, at the priorities, and then they look international, because the international influence will provide resources so that the work at home can be done. So it's a great partnership, international partnership, local partnership, and national partnership that the government have to balance.
May I trespass a little and comment on what the other two panelists have said? I wish to credit the Jamaica Stock Exchange as being one of the most profoundly impactful organizations to democratize capitalism in Jamaica. Their program now, where they're going around the island saying to people of any caliber, of limited means, you can own a share in Honeybun or in Grace Kennedy or in anywhere else. Yes? Profoundly changes the whole attitude of empowerment, of dignifying the persona of that individual who, up to now, has been on the margins, the periphery, or in fact off the cliff of engagement with the Jamaican society, except in a more servile fashion. So that's extremely important. In my view, it is the only hope, the abiding strength for inclusive development in the country, and I'd like to really commend them. It's a change, it's something that's taken place in the last few years. As far as government is concerned, let me tell you, change is not going to come from the top down, certainly not in this country. It's going to come from the bottom up. That's why I'm here this morning, because it comes from people who have enough confidence as to where dinner is coming from tonight and where they'll be sleeping next week, and who therefore can engage in the kind of reflection, self-assessment, and activism that is going to help us to set the right priorities. Allow me to be bold and say that is not happening now. I could give you statistics and maybe just offer a few, but our education budget, the education and training are the only prospects for legitimate upward mobility in any society, and especially in this society. Not scamming, not bleaching, not favoritism, yes, not millennialism, not hero worship, education and training.
Yes.
And yet, of all of the allocations that we have made in what is a bountiful budget this year, education is flat. and in fact is projected to go down in real terms for the next 3 years. That is folly. And it is happening because we, who have a voice and could have a louder voice, and are experiencing an amplification of our voices and our consciousness in a day like today, are not exercising it sufficiently. Yes? What did you say? If you want to change, you have to have a loud voice to start with. You're right. Okay? 30% of our children come to school hungry every day. 50% of our children are on PATH, a meager social security program. 40% of our children don't do any homework. Over 40% of our children don't know or don't have an effective relationship with their fathers. Yes? That affects the overall outcomes. It affects the whole tone of the society. It makes 5 and 4 impossible. It makes the surcease of crime and violence, despite however many zones of operation and states of emergency you have, impossible. This is an occasion for us to wake up and recognize the need for profound changes in the priorities of our governments. Whichever side, we're moving towards a prime ministerial dictatorship, which is the antithesis of the democracy which our founding fathers hoped that we would have.
Yes, my name is Alden Stennett and I'm from Jamaica Public Service Company. I must tell you that this leadership summit is a wonderful experience. The speakers, excellent. The information that is communicated is very applicable to life.
You cannot become a leader except you know your purpose. You can be a CEO. Sometimes you can even be a bishop. Oh. But you cannot truly become a leader except you know your purpose. Why? Leadership is never meant to be over people. I'm rocking your world right now. Leadership is not over people. I worked in the bank years ago. I remember being a leader, but it was just me. I was in the project team, and I was just me. When they call leaders meeting, I show up, but I didn't have people. Some of you are in that position, true of us. Only one person. Because you are not even sure. Leadership is a spirit that must be ignited by purpose, sustained by passion. You must be willing to die for what you claim to believe in, or else you may as well sit down and tighten your seatbelt. And then guided by principles. Leadership is a spirit that can only be ignited by purpose, sustained by passion, and guided by principles. I'll give you one example of a true leader. Rosa Parks. If you know Rosa Parks, say, I do. I don't mean Rosa Parks that lives in Kingston 5. There's a Rosa Parks in history that we read about. Rosa Parks had been on that bus for far too long. On that particular day, tell somebody, say, that day. And that day, this is your day. This is your that day. And she said, Amila, she said, listen, I am not going to the back of the bus. I'm tired of it. I am tired. Why do I have to go back to the back of the bus? And they said, hey, woman, shh, keep it down. I am not keeping it down. All I have is my voice. Woman, shh, did you know there's some? You are not listening to me. The more they tried to hush her, the more she spoke up. She could never be quiet. The Spirit, come on, somebody. Come on. The Spirit ignited in her. And they took her to jail. And today, let me tell you something. There's a place called the Rotunda. The Rotunda is where you lay in state U.S. presidents. The only 3 people that are not presidents that have laid in the Rotunda: Rosa Parks, Martin Luther King, and Billy Graham. So who can tell me what was Rosa Parks' position? CEO of what? CEO of what? Leadership is not your position, it's not popularity, it's not prosperity, it's not power. But it's a spirit that can only be ignited by purpose, sustained by passion, and guided by principles. On that note, we are going to take a tea break. Yeah, they have their topics there. Miller is going to be speaking briefly. They have about 10 minutes to introduce their topic, and then we are going to fire them questions. I sent them a WhatsApp message. I said, this is a summit where we grill the speakers. Somebody want to grill some speakers today? Yes. So get your questions ready. Every question you've always wanted to ask Professor Nichols, he's sitting on the hot seat, you're going to ask that. So Amila will be talking about raising a generation of nation builders. That's a man who's passionate about building nations. For those who are spiritual in any way, shape, or form, you know the Bible, God doesn't give you cities and give you homes and give you cars and homes. He gives you nations. And the nation of Jamaica is in some of your hands today. What happens to it is in your hand.
Let's get right into it. We're talking about leadership and leadership in business and excellence in leadership. We were designed to be excellent and to do whatever we do excellently, because we were made in the image of God, who does everything to perfection. Success is what we were built for. Success is your right. You were designed for it. And not just individual success, but success in whatever we do. But it is not luck or chance. Success is knowing the principles that make for success and diligently working at them consistently to achieve the success. Now, I'm going to be talking with you about the subject that you heard. And I want to set it in the background of the theme of our conference, of the summit, which is strengthening national dignity and global influence. That's our theme. And I love it because conceptually, therefore, it is in keeping with our own national goals and purpose for our own nation and for the fulfillment of them, because that was the heart of our founding fathers, if you can recall, because our founding fathers made it clear that this nation under God should increase in beauty, in fellowship and prosperity, and doing what? Playing her part in advancing the welfare of the whole human race. Now, I want you to listen to what I'm saying in the light of that, because raising a generation of nation changers must be understood from that background. And that's how I'm sharing, because the negatives of the last 50 years of our own nationhood has left some scars and some wounds upon us as a nation, and it has robbed us of our national dignity and has weakened our influence globally. But that's why we need to raise a generation to turn it around. Tell your neighbor, we are the generation. Yes, and our children are going to make it happen. Yes, so there's a whole song that usually says, we're going to fix up what they messed up. So whoever messed it up, the next generation is to what? Fix it up. We have a choice, either to leave it the way we found it or to do something about it. And I want us to always choose to do something about it, because we're created for change and to make things happen. And so in order to look at it, I want to call it the ABCs of raising a generation of nation builders. The ABCs of raising a generation of nation builders, because it is an imperative that we do that. And raising a generation is the responsibility of leaders. It is only leaders who can effectively do that. So I don't know if there are any leaders in the house, but it is leaders who are going to raise a generation of nation changers, leaders in families, leaders in business, leaders in government, but it is leaders. It is a leadership responsibility. So A is what I want to suggest to you, what I'm referring to as acknowledgement and recognition of the need of truth. So there are a couple of truths we got to just acknowledge. We must acknowledge if we're going to raise a generation. So I'll throw these points at you and be tempted to resist the urge to preach it. Glory to God. Mama. Yes. Bishop Heber Blair used to say, I feel something in my shoes and it's not my socks. So I think I shouted to him one day and says, it's your toes. But here is it. Those who created, here is the truth we must accept, that those who created the problem need help for the strategy to solve it. Because if those who created it could have solved it, they would have solved it. So the fact they haven't, we have to say they can't. So hence, they need our help, the input of each one of us to help them to solve it. So therefore, it's going to need all hands on deck. Everybody, as you heard Dr. Ronnie Thwaite saying this morning, is going to take all hands on deck. If we're going to raise this generation to turn this nation around, every hand. It needs children, it needs young people, it needs adults, it's going to take government, it's going to take business, it's going to take church, all working together, applying themselves if it's going to happen. Another truth that we have to accept is that the central necessity is the coordination of effort like an orchestra, like a symphony. Yes, that's what it's going to take, man. Where it's going to have the unity of everyone playing their own instrument and everyone performing with absolute excellence. Come on, you can see that symphonic orchestra watching all those different instruments at play. Everybody know what they're doing, and they are doing it with what? Excellence. Doing it with excellence. Critical. So therefore, we can't just go to work. We can't just go to school. You can't just sit at what you do. You got to realize we've got to do it with excellence if we're going to turn this thing around. And by the way, all of these points I'm raising here for raising a generation to change a nation is, don't just think it's for nation. The same principles apply whether it is business, whether it is an organization, whether it is church. These principles are common to all development processes.
Now, in any organization, you've got two different cultures. You either have a responsibility culture or an accountability culture, right? With responsibility, people will do what they think is good, what they enjoy doing. But the thing is, it not necessarily works towards the goal or the strategic direction of the organization. You know that person who's at work that's always busy, but you don't know what they do? That's a responsible person. But you've got somebody who's accountable, right? There is an objective relationship between them and their manager. People work because they're held to an account. So we have the individual who is responsible, and they're by themselves. They do what they feel that they have to do. But that person who is accountable, they have a relationship with their manager because the manager said, this is what I want, and here is the goal. Organizations spend a lot of time establishing your strategic goals, and you write a great document saying, this is where the company is going. And as we do that, we will send it out to everybody in the organization so we know the values, we know everything that we want to do, what we want to achieve. And then the organization will go out and they will find a leadership team that will guide the organization. Said, we've got a great CEO, we've got a vice president, we've got a senior manager, we've got all these individuals that's going to do it. But the gear that pulls things together, it's the one of a structure. And the key piece of that is the accountability. If we have managers who won't hold their team accountable, we have a problem. Accountability occurs when you've got a few things that happen. A manager who clearly defines all the roles and authorities. So as the manager, you tell everybody in the team, this is what you do, this is how you do it, and this is the standard that's expected. And as your manager, I will do ABC. So we're both accountable. Now, in the early years, I gave my children an allowance, but we had a contract. And I said, if you do ABC, this is how much money you get. But another part of the agreement was, Daddy, if you don't pay me on time, here's the interest rate. So we're both accountable, and you need that in the organization. Employees commit to complete their work as specified, and manager hold their employees to the agreement. This is where we fall off the rail a lot, right? We make sure that people are at work and they come in on time and they don't leave early. That's the accountability extent in some cases. But when people do things wrong, when they do it right, do we recognize them? As a practice, when I go to a restaurant and I get excellent service, I tell that server and I ask them, him or her, to get the manager. And I bring the manager over and say, oh, by the way, this individual gave me excellent service, excellent ambassador for your organization. Please make sure that you value them. If you have a good accountability framework, then the CEOs can implement their strategy, coordinate the work that's required. And there's a key piece here. They have a workforce for today and develop the workforce for the future. Because it is our responsibility as a leadership team, not just to leave it in the state it is now, but to make sure you've got a workforce that will go into the future. For the first time, we have 4 different generations in the workplace today. You've got that 18-year-old that's there, that's just starting, and you've got that 70-year-old person that said, I don't want to retire. They're doing the same job, but you need to lead them in different ways. So as a leader, you need to know how to hold them accountable. There are 2 common rules for the managers. One is you're leading the frontline individuals to do the daily routines, right? And you are responsible for that employee. So not only are you holding them accountable, but you have to lead them as they do the job. Motivate them to do the job. Make sure they want to come to work and enjoy it. And then you've got managers of managers. That individual must keep them accountable. Make sure that you're actually leading the people that you're supposed to be leading. Have you seen those managers who they sit at their desk every day? They don't know what's going on with their team. They might get an email once in a while to get an update. Or if their boss wants something, they send you an email and say, I want an answer right away. We have a problem. When I first got into corrections, I just walk along to the inmates. I don't care what your charges are. I need to know what's going on. How do I fix the problems? The leader is directly answerable. Let me read this. The leader is directly answerable for the success or the failure of their team. It's all about the leader. It's hard work, and it requires consistency. So don't come in today and everything is okay, and then tomorrow, different rules. I think the foregone speaker said the value change every day. So you have to be aware of that. Anybody here in law enforcement? Well, I have to touch it. Leaders, and I'm speaking to law enforcement, you must enforce professionalism, and you must make sure that you hold people accountable. The manager judges the direct report's work effectiveness and must take appropriate action. Have you ever heard of the law enforcement community doing things that's wrong? You've never heard about that. Police officers are being charged, thrown in jail, and as far as I know, they're responsible for upholding the law. So now they're no longer an example. And very few are actually held accountable. I know that if a police stop you to give you a ticket And he said, left or right? You know what that means? You left me with something, or I write a ticket. Oh, you don't know that? Even I know that. But what is being done with those individuals? It continues. But breaking news. Breaking news. The Commissioner of Police just introduced a 7-point anti-crime plan which includes internal and external accountability. Now that it's been introduced, I'm waiting to see how will the commissioner hold his team accountable. Because if I'm still driving down the street and I hear left or right, we have a problem. Let me end by telling you my personal experience. I was given a secondment for a year. And when I walked in my onboarding, I was told, Kevin, you have the laziest team here. They're a bunch of misfits. They can't do their job. They can't deliver. And what the deputy of the day was doing, he would give them one file at a time. And when they're finished with that file, no deadline, they will bring it to him and he will give them another file. And sometimes that one file takes 2-3 weeks to do. When I stepped in, I introduced my accountability framework. I went to them and I told them what I expect from them. I told them how I will support them, gave them the resources, and then I moved the filing cabinet into their office and said I want to see minimum 4 files on the go. I had a non-performer. I removed him from the team. I worked with a short team. But just before I left, I was told by my manager, and my manager once removed, that we weren't meeting the standard that they didn't set. So I sent an email and I said, oh, please tell me when we will meet to discuss my discipline, because I'm responsible for my team. Now, that request was made in 2017. We haven't had that meeting yet. But I've left the place, and what I get from my team is regular updates saying, sir, this is how we are using accountability with our team. I look forward to further conversations.
Come on, crack the music, crack it, crack it. Everybody just stand up on your feet and kind of rock it, rock it, rock it. What thing? Everybody sing. Everybody. Now this is where it gets good. Pull up, pull up. Time don't allow, sit down. By the way, confession is good for the soul. Somebody say confession. Gotta confess, I'm a pastor and I'm on my way to Sunfest. I broke out. So this morning is just a rehearsal. But don't you try to do it in Al's church. You see, in my church, they can't put me on backbench because me are the biggest tither. So I run in a church. Money answereth and covereth all things. How y'all doing? First, giving honor to God. Big him up. Big her up. The truth of the matter is that though we stand here, we seem so eloquent. We have resumes longer than our presentations. The fact of the matter is that we are born emotional beings, not rational beings. So if it's okay with you if on this occasion I also honor my wife. Because today is the day I'll never forget. Today is the day she left me for another man. She's resting safe in the arms of Jesus. My wife was born on the 3rd of July. We got married on the 6th of July. She died on the 18th of July. and was buried on the last day of July. I make it through this month, I'm good for the rest of the year. You should never be such a big man that you cannot cry, even if not externally, but inwardly. Are you ready for my briefest of all presentations? I feel like I want to make history today. You know, in Jamaica, for me, brief is a male underwear. Don't get worried, you just got to believe I'm wearing it. But you may not see it. In Jamaica, if a man see that, you're in a trouble, brethren. All right, next one. Look, I'm going to start right here. I know motivational speakers, we're supposed to look at everything through a rose-colored glass and make every thing pretty. Can we start with some realism? Isaiah 1:21, how the faithful city has become a... No, me say so. She who was full of justice, righteousness lodged in her, but now, everybody say, murderers. Let's do a little transposition. How has Jamaica become a... She who was full of justice, righteousness lodged in her, but now... Next slide. Stop it, hold it there. In 1494, we can imagine that when Christopher Columbus discovered, damn lie, Jamaica. Could this be what he saw when he returned to Spain? Queen Isabella, King Ferdinand had counsel with him, and he had to describe all the places he had discovered, damn lie. But when it came to Jamaica, this loquacious of all seafarers simply picked up a piece of paper, crushed it up, said, that's it. That's Jamaica. It's indescribable. But we have gone from this, next, to this, next, to this, next, and to this. Are you ready to talk reality? Next one. But you know, I have a simple principle in reading the Bible. If I read a verse and it leaves me depressed, it means I haven't read far enough. So read verse 26 of Isaiah 1. And I will restore your judges as the first, and your counselors at the beginning. Afterward, you shall be called the city of righteousness, the faithful city. Put your hands together for Jamaica. So that under God. Yes, that's the Jamaica I see and I experience. Next one. So my mandate is this one. It leaves me no option. Don't get crazy. Everybody want me to tell my story, how I ended up in Trenchtown. People examining me to see blood. But if you see any blood on me, it's the blood of Jesus. Don't I look good? Do I smell good?
Very good.
Do I kiss good?
I don't know that.
Girl, you don't know what you're missing. And maybe it's a good thing. Can live the rest of your life believing what you've got is the best. Jesus himself. Better come to Jesus. That's it. Defend the poor and the fatherless. Do justice to the afflicted and needy. Deliver the poor and the needy. Read them out. It's Constant New Kingston at the top of my game. Great achievement for me and my family every year was a sabbatical to the Sawgrass Mall. How damn boring can life get? And I had a change experience and I answered that call. Next. This is how Jesus, quoting Isaiah, described his job. This is his job description. The Spirit of the Lord is upon me because he has anointed me to do what? preach the gospel to the poor. He had sent me to heal the brokenhearted and to preach deliverance to the captives, recovering of sight to the blind, to set at liberty them that are bruised. Next one, I'm soon be done. We have a very distinctive approach in Trenchtown. May not have the biggest church. Matter of fact, I am so bored in church. I don't even sit up on the rostrum. I just want to run the road, brethren. I just want to run the road. Church on Sunday, I keep the safe. We use what is called the asset-based community development, ABCD. So for instance, very quickly, other people look at no man land. They see a big open land where criminals are running with guns and all that. We look at it, we see the most expensive real estate in Jamaica. 5 minutes the way did John Crow fly when we did have John Crow. When last you see one? From downtown Kingston, from the port of Kingston. And so we have done an asset map of Trenchtown. If you're in business, what you do with assets, you leverage it. The other approach used in Jamaica is called needs analysis. By the time you do needs analysis, people from outside come in and tell you what to do, and they create clientelism. Learning community. Communities learn, unlearn, relearn. I don't get too excited in Trenchtown. You walk outside, you come in my office, it looks like New Kingston. Communities learn. Quadruple helix. That when you face complex problems, there's nothing you can do to solve it by your single programs. So if you look in Trenchtown, there are always 4 agents present in everything we do. Private sector, public sector, non-government sector, and academia. Triple bottom line. I'll show you that, save time. And we believe in hand up more than we believe in handout. Go, just a couple more. This is how it's illustrated. If you look at agape love, 1 Corinthians stirs Paulian concept of charity. So you have what is called handout. And when I got to Trenchtown, community I'm not from, I started to do the handout. I had some resources. Man, I found that soon I would have no pocket to put it in and no hand to hand it out. Then you have hand down, which is the old paradigm, but many companies are stuck in it. They call it CSR, corporate social responsibility. That might be the news of the day. If you want to ask me why I say that about it, asking the question and answer. But then we have hand up. And I know you have asked me to speak on transformation through social enterprise. Brethren, we passed that. We're now talking about Christian social entrepreneurship. Up to last year, I was a social entrepreneur. Now the Lord just opened it up and said, you're a Christian social entrepreneur. You can't throw away what I give you from your mother's womb. What is that? Let's go. Basically, we call it the triple bottom line. Christian, social, entrepreneurship. Let's put it institutionally. Next. The church, we stopped trying to make business out of the church. And all that prosperity message, foolishness and all that. One thing we know, the church gives spiritual benefits. And without it, you're going to end up with what you just saw on the slide. That costs almost 100 lives. Then we have an NGO, which gives societal benefits. And we have enterprise, which is a social enterprise, which gives economic benefits. Are you with me? And I found that when you cause the zone of where they all meet to get larger and larger, you get a massive change in communities. Next one. For us, the church is Praise City International. We have Agency for Inner City Renewal as a non-government organization. And one example is that we have Jammin Merchandising, which is an ice cream frozen novelties depot. We're coming out with our own line of drinks. It's owned and run by women in the community. We also have Jammin Tours, same principle. Jammin Recording Studio, same principle. Let me end by just bragging. Because me can boast, brethren, because for me, boast is in the Lord. In 2016, our revenue was 589 million. They won't allow me to call myself a small or medium enterprise anymore. On a typical day like today, over 200 people in Trenchtown are gone to work, thanks to people like Honeybun. What others dream about, I, with God's help, and those who work with me do.